We're pretty much all familiar with medical science, and we are kind of unanimously agreeing that medical science is a very respected field of the sciences where we can talk objectively about how to heal or how to properly treat and look at the health of human beings and other animals. However, I would like to make the point and the observation that medical science as a term, as an idea, is inherently paradoxical. Because you see, the very essence of the medical field is in some sense not compatible with pure science. Here is my point. Here is why I think this. Science and the sciences in general are meant to be descriptive fields. They are areas in which we use reason and empirical observation to make descriptive claims about the world. You look at an object and you want to know what it's made of. Well, you get a pretty good, machine, and you find out a way to analyze it and see what it's made of. Its chemical makeup. If it's a biological being, its biological makeup, etc. So you can analyze things empirically and make claims about it and about how it works. This is the essence of the sciences, from the very simplest observation, like how this cup was made, to big observations about how the universe expands. So all of those have this common baseline of describing the world using empirical observation and reason. Now here is the problem with the term medical science. To say that you can find an objective way of treating or looking at the health of a being, you need to already have an existing understanding of what it means to be healthy, what it means to function in a proper way and not function in a proper way. Medical science is inherently prescriptive. We make, we make pills, we make different ways of treating people in order to sort of give them solutions to a problem. Perhaps you have a problem with your heart, so you take certain pills that help with your heart, or you go and do surgery and you fix something. So the medical field is inherently prescriptive. And this is inherently, this is completely opposite to every other scientific field. Scientific fields like physics, like biology, like chemistry, these are purely descriptive. They tell you how the world works, what the world is made of, etc. Medical science, on the other hand, takes a step further and tells you what you should do about it. It gives you a descriptive understanding of how, the body is functioning currently, and it tells you what to do. So, how can we reconcile for this? How can we make sense of this? The medical field needs to be sort of respected, and we agree that we need a common understanding of the medical field, but science seems to have this aspect that is completely different to the medical field. Science seems to be this thing that cannot tell you what you should do, what to do in order to fix problems. It is simply a tool for descriptions, and the medical field seems to be all about fixing problems and telling you what you should do. So while reflecting upon this observation, I think I found something interesting. You see, I feel like the medical sciences are inherently working with an Aristotelean model of humanity and of action in general and of ethics. Because, you see, for Aristotle, in case you haven't read any Aristotle, for Aristotle, everything has many different kinds of explanations. It's not just about simple causality. For Aristotle, everything has I don't want to say a purpose explicitly, but a function. So when trying to give an explanation about how this gap came to be, you have to also take into account its function. It didn't just come to be because certain particles moved in certain ways, etc., etc., and different forces did their work. It also comes to be as it is because human beings willed this cup into existence to fill it with coffee. So for Aristotle, this is a fundamental aspect of every single thing that is natural, every single thing in nature. And he also saw human beings in this way. So human beings are not just as they are because different particles moved around in different ways and followed the laws of physics in certain ways, etc. Human beings come to be because they have a certain function. Their function being to live a life of reason, which separates them from different animals. Now, I'm not saying that medical science takes this model verbatim and works with it as it is, but I'm saying that it uses the gist of this model in its understanding of prescribing solutions and prescribing treatment. It's not so much about, the purpose of human beings to use, reason properly and to live a life of reason, nothing like that. But medical science has to think of beings, right now also animals, not only human beings. It has to think of beings as having some kind of functional basis, some kind of having some kind of function that they have to, fulfill. Otherwise, the entire field of psychology, for instance, and psychiatry makes no logical sense as a science, because, you see, if you don't have an Aristotelian way of thinking about human beings, it's really difficult to understand why you would need to prescribe drugs to change the chemical makeup of the brain in order to change certain behaviors. I mean, not every behavior leads directly, to death, which you could say, because, some people say, well, it's not really Aristotelian, it's just that the medical sciences are trying to protect you from death. This is the explicit goal, and so anything that protects you from death is given as a prescription to the problems that make you more prone to death. But not everything works like that. If you look at mental disorders specifically, there are many mental disorders that do not lead you in any way closer to death, and yet we prescribe medications for them. And if not medications, at least treatment. We see them as problems that need to be fixed. And we don't see it as a philosophical point. We're not saying that, this person has, let's say, an anxiety disorder, and that's just a philosophical way of living. It's a different way of looking at the world. No, we say he has an illness. He's ill. He has a disorder that needs to be treated. So the only way in which you can intelligently make this case without speaking nonsense or speaking straight out of opinion is if you are using, yes, science in order to, collect data and analyze things and look at the brain, etc., but fundamentally using an Aristotelian model of understanding beings, where there are certain functions that need to be met. Even people who are just way weirder than you and who live, let's say, in a way that is not socially acceptable in our day and age, they often get treated as if they're mentally ill, because, again, psychiatry and psychology, the medical science in general, the medical sciences in general, work with this Aristotelean way of thinking, where the person needs to be social, they need to be able to do this, and that. Otherwise, they're dysfunctional. Again, these are all well within the prescriptive realm, and they're in no way purely descriptive facts of reality. So I don't see how the medical field can properly be called a scientific field unless one uses a philosophical basis that is Aristotelian-esque. Now, does this mean that I want to, discredit the medical field, etc., etc.? No, of course not. All I'm trying to say is that it's not purely a science. It has a very strong philosophical essence behind it, the medical field. And I think this is important because, especially when it comes to psychology and psychiatry, we need to be very careful about what we deem to have as proper functions of human beings and animals. Because for some functions are not, that important, and for others, some functions might be vital. So, if you want to make a science about how to solve problems in psychology, in the psychology of people, you need to be very careful about what you choose as your functional basis. And you also need to be very transparent about the fact that there is a whole bunch of philosophical thinking that goes behind your assumptions about this medical science of yours, before going ahead and, making people take pills and making people take treatment because of, science. So that's all I want to say. I want to warn people who are simply looking at, especially psychology and psychiatry, as these purely objective fields of inquiry, where anything that is said behind a statistical analysis and behind the scientific analysis is taken as fact, while ignoring the fact that there is a whole bunch of prescriptive essence within the medical field, which is not purely descriptive, not purely scientific, and very much philosophical in nature. So, I'm not against Aristotelianism, but we need to acknowledge that, this functionalistic way of thinking is inherent to the medical sciences, and that we need to be very careful about how we go about defining these, parameters with which we're working. So, thank you for watching this video. If you disagree or agree or anything, you can leave a comment, and please share this so that my channel grows even more. Thank you.